Hi everyone, this is Alan McKay. Welcome to episode 65. I'm going to be talking about all of the regular tools, services, apps, software, whatever that I use day to day that I highly recommend. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
This episode, we're dealing with freelance tools, websites, all the stuff that I regularly use and recommend. So the reason I want to do this episode is because I think this would be just a lot of fun to kind of discuss some of the tools that I regularly use, as well as some of the silly, weird devices around my house. Just stuff that comes up a lot in conversation that I think might be really cool to share. Now, just as a heads up, you may like this episode, you may find it to be something that you're not really digging. But in the meantime, if you want, go to www.alanmckay.com/65, which is episode 65. That has the show notes, and that will actually have a very, very in-depth list of all the stuff that I'm talking about. So links to everything and everything else. So just as a heads up, I'm not affiliated with anything that I'm talking about here. I'm not making money from it or anything like that. I feel like it's worth saying that just because, at the same time I get like some people coming up like, hey, are you being paid by so-and-so or whatever, just because I'll mention V-Ray or something, which to me I think is pretty much industry standard, but I just figured get this stuff out of the way. Now, just a heads up, so a couple things are coming up. Next episode, I'm doing an effects roundtable with Mark Terriot, who is Blur, ILM, Image Engine, really talented effects TD, as well as Anselm Sarathos, who is another talented effects TD who you probably know his name. We did a bit of a round table over some beers after we finished all of our talks in Paris earlier this year, so in 2016, and that was a lot of fun. And that episode I'm going to be posting next week, followed by a couple other really awesome ones to do a lot of different stuff. I'm interviewing Andre Cantarell, who is the CG supervisor on the client side for Independence Day Resurgence, which I still have not seen. So Andre is a really cool guy, and we're going to be talking a lot about that project, which will be pretty cool, as well as a lot of his background and some of the insane stuff that he models and all that good stuff. Now, a lot of people have been asking a lot recently about the mentorship. When the hell does the mentorship that I run launch again? So just as a heads up, the Effects TD mentorship launches once a year typically, and it's actually going to be coming up in about 2 weeks' time. So there are going to be limited spots available just for those who make it in. Typically it fills up within the first week, so it goes pretty quick. But there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff that I'm going to be adding this year. As the last 2 years since I launched it, it's been using the same material, but I'm actually going to be adding a lot of additional new lessons to do with Maya, Houdini, as well as a lot more career-orientated stuff, in addition to what we're currently doing. Plus, I'll be revising a lot of lessons, getting really updated on like some really awesome shots, compositing effects, scripting, you name it. It's going to be pretty freaking awesome. So that will be coming up in about 2 weeks' time, so I'm going to be jumping on that pretty soon. In the meantime, I just want to kind of get into this episode and get rolling. So, I don't know, like basically for me, I've got a lot of different tools, a lot of different software, apps, you name it, Google extensions, and I feel like this is something that might start a bigger conversation. I pinged it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and inside my mentorship group and like the private Facebook group that we run, and it's been really cool just to kind of see like all the responses kind of piling in about that, and just a lot of people kind of added their 2 cents. A lot of it was VFX related, and a lot of this, I kind of want to mix it up. It's more about productivity, a lot about just standard stuff that we use. But I may do a couple of follow-ups if this is something that you guys are interested in. I'd love to do more just because there's such a gold mine of information out there. But just to start out, I figured I'd just dive into software. I mean, I think that's like a big one. So this is more like online websites as well as software, things like that, and just kind of how I use them in production. So one of the first ones I wanted to mention was a tool from Grant Adam, who is a TD in Australia, or technical director in Australia, who wrote this tool a long time ago called FolderGit. Okay, and I'll have links in the show notes to all this stuff, so I don't need to keep spelling out the URLs or anything like that. But FolderGit is basically a tool which will allow you to store like directories or paths into your right-click menu, and it's actually pretty dynamic. You can do a lot with it. Basically, for me, it just means that if I have like the network projects directory, the podcast directory where I'm storing all my notes and everything, all the work that I put into the episodes, files, things like that, my texture reference directory, maps, renders, everything that I have, like all these different network paths, all these different servers. All I do is I can just quickly right click and add this to this menu. And essentially, whenever I right click anywhere in Windows, it will allow me to quickly jump to that directory. And I find that just to be a lifesaver. And Folder Express was this tool back in 2004 that we used on a few productions, and it was really cool, but it never really got updated. And FolderGit came along, and it's kind of that on steroids, just because it allows you to do a lot of wildcards and extra advanced stuff with it, which I don't take advantage of. But even just in the simplest of sense, it means that I can have like a menu of all the go-to places that I regularly go to, all programs, whatever I wanted, all in a right-click menu. And it's a free tool, one that I just feel like it's such a critical tool that we all should have, and Windows should kind of have it by default. I do also have a link to a video. I've not watched it, but I actually made this video years ago when FolderGit was first released, just to kind of showcase how I typically use it. So that will be in the show notes as well. I did want to mention Dropbox, which is such a given, but at the same time, Dropbox for me in production, I find to be so valuable. I share a lot of stuff with clients this way, just because I find that it's just a pretty valuable way to kind of share stuff, which will sync across all your Dropbox folders. So just for anyone who's not familiar with Dropbox, basically it's like a lot of the other tools these days. It uploads files to the cloud, and they synchronize across every machine that's tied to that account. So let's say I'm working on my laptop and I'm at a cafe and I'm typing away. I finish a file, I put it on my Dropbox folder. Then when I go home, it's actually on my desktop. It's actually on my phone. It's on my iPad. It's everywhere. And if I'm sharing that folder with other people, as soon as the file syncs, which is automatic, they'll have it as well. It'll notify them, hey, this file just became available. And so I use this all the time to kind of work with other people all over the world. I'm able to put up folders, and they're able to do the same. And at the same time with clients, I'm able to kind of have directories all set up where they're all able to access it, and I just send them like a private link. I've used this where I actually did a talk while I was on Equalizer. I put together like a bit of a presentation about how I was working in LA and in Boston at the same time, and I was able to kind of transfer through different networks. I was able to work on this project with completely different folder structures, the whole thing. So there's a lot of different uses for it, but in general, I just find that if you're freelancing, I mean, the most simplest of things, but if you're freelancing, it's really great to be able to have like a freelance folder where you have like your shortcuts, any reference material, any go-to assets that you regularly use, color schemes, whatever that you are used to having, just everything in one place. And at the same time, if you are working on shots and you want to take something home, continue to work on it, you just drop the file there and it's synced up. You can get way more advanced with it and kind of just have everything on your network, essentially, uploading to the cloud constantly. So that way, it's not like you need to drag and drop, just everything is synced wherever you are. I just really like it because it means that I've got stuff that I can sync to my phone really quick. I don't need to email myself and then download the email and do all that crap. I just go to my Dropbox folder and it's sitting there already. Now, of course, there's Google Drive, there's Amazon Drive as well, or Amazon Cloud. I forget, because there's a few different, like there's the is it EC3, I think, or S3. S3, I'm pretty sure. S2, I'm getting totally confused now. Amazon EC3, I think it is the drive, like the regular cloud stuff that they have, as well as S2, I think, is the video service. I'm getting totally messed up here, but basically Amazon has like a new kind of Google Drive Dropbox competitor as well now, which is unlimited and just or I think it's unlimited, where you can just kind of sync anything of yours. So I think that's really cool just to kind of have everything on the cloud these days. Of course, you want it to be secure, which is the other thing about it. So I really like that. Obviously, some clients, you want something a bit more secure and faster. Dropbox is fine for most things, but at the same time, if you're working on a Warner Brothers project or something where you need to kind of showcase your workflow, Dropbox is not really going to fall in that category. So Aspera is another one which I'll try to link to. Otherwise, it's just ASPERA, and Aspera is pretty industry standard for doing really safe transfers of large files over the internet, things like that. And at the same time, I guess Dropbox, one other thing, I haven't experienced this at one studio, but there are going to be some IT places that disable USB drives and block Facebook and other things like that. And so Dropbox can sometimes be something that can be blocked at certain companies. Like I said, I've only experienced one, and that place blocked everything. So, just be aware of that too. But I just find Dropbox to be pretty handy in general. For me, I used to use like Google Docs a lot to kind of send invoices, that sort of thing. I found it to be really frustrating and hard to keep track of. But these days I use Due, which I think used to be called Make Some Time or something, but now it's called Due, DUE. And that's just like an invoicing platform. There's plenty out there. There's QuickBooks, which was another one someone recommended. And then Invoice Home is another one. So I use Due and Invoice Home, but basically these are ones where they're free to an extent, but you can essentially set up all your clients in there. So I could say Blur, ILM, DD, whatever, and like put them all in there. And then I just like type in the invoice, like choose the date or whatever, type in what I did, how much, and it will automatically send that person an invoice, and it'll track it, it'll store it, it'll tell you how much you made during that time. All that stuff. So when it comes to taxes, you've got all your information there. You can even remind people, and it'll tell you if invoices are overdue. There's lots of cool stuff that comes with that. So I kind of find just having some kind of service where it doesn't need to be some like really over-the-top tool, but just something where you can quickly say, hey, fire out this invoice to this person, and then you can follow up and tell them tell it you've received it when the invoices come, whatever you wanted to do. That I just find as a freelancer is really cool, because that way it's all there, it's in the cloud, you can access it anywhere. You don't need to worry about doing fancy formatting because you've got templates for all this stuff, and it's all professional, and you can set it up based on the country, all the things you can think of. It just makes invoicing clients really easy. So that's DUE, due, like overdue, and Invoice Home, it was the other one. So one thing that I like, and it's just, and again, these are just going to be quirky sites I'm going to rattle off, but It's Almost. So again, I'll put the link in, but it's just like ITSALMO.st. So it's almo.st. And that's just like a countdown timer. I don't know if anyone's ever heard any of my previous podcasts and talks on overtime versus productivity, but I talked a lot about having timers, and I can see 3 on my desk right now. So I have like a lot of physical timers that I have going, and it's because that way I tend to be a lot more conscious and aware of like when, whether I'm being focused, what I've got coming up, that sort of thing. So if I have a timer set for 1 hour and I'm working away, anytime I get distracted, something pops up or whatever, if I see that timer, I instantly get back into work mode, and I'm very concentrated, very, not just like, oh, doing my work, but I'm like, I call it stress focus, which probably sounds really unhealthy, but it's just that way I'm very determined to get that task done. And it kind of keeps that laser focus or, tunnel vision, whatever you need. Tunnel vision actually can be a good thing. Whatever you need to kind of keep going until you see the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever other tunnel metaphors I can throw in there. So timers to me is just like a really good way to kind of recalibrate yourself constantly to stay on point. And so what I have with It's Almost is it's just like a really elegant countdown timer rather than using like Google's timer or something. It just like, it looks kind of nice, and you can actually set your actionable goals. So you could put 60 minutes until lunch, and then it's going to count down 60 minutes or 59 minutes until lunch in big letters, and you've got that goal in mind. So you could say 60 minutes until dailies, and it's like, I got to get all my stuff in the dailies. And I just kind of like the idea behind it. Again, there are so many timers out there, but this to me just kind of works pretty well for what I need to do. I remember on Superman, we were working around the clock trying to redo the entire opening sequence to the film. we had like 3 weeks to do it from start to finish. It was like all CG, minute and a half of CG. I had to blow up the sun, blow up Krypton, and all this other stuff. I managed to sneak in like a 3ds Max teapot as one of the chunks inside of the planet when Krypton blew up. And a lot of us we ended up watching 24, the TV show, just like from season 1, episode 1, all the way through to whatever season they were up to at the time. I think it was like 5. And then I watched The Shield, just kept kind of watching stuff to keep awake while we're doing crazy hours. And one of us ended up getting, actually it was me, ended up getting the 24 countdown clock. And basically at the end of every hour, it would just chime out and have like the countdown from 24. And it's kind of cool though, because it kind of constantly recalibrated you, where you just remembered, oh shit, like now it's, if I hear that, it must mean it's 1 a.m. And then you hear it again, it's like, fuck, it's 2 a.m. Got to get back to work, because you don't want to be there, when the sun rises, which we always were. And so that was just it. Like it was really kind of cool to have like something that kind of like kept your focus, because as you're going along, you're going to slow down, and you hear that reminder that you got to get back to work basically, and you kind of get back on track. And I kind of like that. Again, I don't want to ever glorify working stupid hours, but that to me was one of my favorite projects to work on. It was really fun, just kind of performing the impossible. Like it was such a team effort, and we just killed it for 3 solid weeks. So that was awesome. And like I always think of those kind of things where it's kind of gets you back in the game when you need that kind of push. I use Evernote a lot. Evernote is amazing. It's just there are other tools coming out now that are kind of similar, but Evernote is like the note-taking app. And they also tie with like Moleskine, which allows you to kind of write handwritten notes that then transfer to Evernote, stuff like that. But Evernote basically is just another syncing thing where you can write in all your notes, and it has like a lot of really great formatting and a lot of other tools you can share. You can do chat, so you can do a lot with it, and it'll sync to the network and to everyone else's folders. So I have a lot of shared folders with a lot of colleagues of mine, where one might be just like really great ideas, or really great artwork, or just things that we want to team up on together down the line. Just whatever it's going to be, and like we'll share those folders, and whatever notes we put in there end up getting synced with everyone automatically. So I really like that aspect, and you can kind of work on documents together, and you can see who contributed what. So there's a few emails I've been sending out to my VIP like inner circle list lately, and I've been teaming up with a few people, which is new to me, to actually like not be doing it all by myself. But I'm starting to finally realize I can't do everything by myself. So I've got a few really talented people, part of my A team, that have been kind of collaborating on some emails and other content that I've been sending out. So I put together like a massive shopping list email to send to my VIP list. Again, the VIP list is free. It's just alanmckay.com/inside, and a lot of content. I'm sending out typically 2 emails a week, and it's just like a lot of free videos, a lot of stuff that I wouldn't probably share publicly. It's just more kind of a reward for those who want to be a part of that. So if you want to get on there, just go to alanmckay.com/inside, and that will have a little thing. You put your email address in, and it's just all free stuff. I think most of what I do is like 99% free. And then, like I said, mentorship and a couple other things are like once a year or whatever, I'll, post stuff related to that. And the rest of the time, I'm just trying to give out as much as I can. And so in this case, like I put together like a really big shopping list, like 2 different shopping lists that you can download. They're actually production shopping lists of like hardware. So if you wanted to buy a workstation specifically for effects simulations, there's one that you can just literally use, and it's tweaked, optimized, perfect for doing effect simulations. And then there's one for 3D generalists, and these are both actual shopping lists from real productions that are recent, so that way you get an idea of like what's the go-to stuff. So I want to do a few more of those soon. I'm actually going to put together kind of like price comparisons, like here's the cheap one, here's the optimal shopping list for like every type of genre you can think of, as well as render nodes, setting up your own studio. There's going to be a lot of that stuff coming out. So a lot of that stuff I would talk on Evernote with my team about that stuff. And Microsoft OneNote is another good one that is free, and it's really cool. I actually use it for my podcast a lot, just to kind of store it all in OneNote, which is kind of cool. HelloSign is another one. I've actually got Adele stuck in my head at the moment. I don't know why, so hello from the other side. So I'm trying not to say that instead of HelloSign. But HelloSign is basically like a PDF signing tool. So essentially you do your signature once and, whatever else that you need to put in there. And it intelligently can like kind of get a gist of like what the document's saying, and it'll automatically put stuff in. Otherwise, you just kind of say insert name here, insert date there, insert signature here, and it'll automatically just like drop all that stuff in. So it means that it's really easy to sign documents. I can do it from my iPhone. I just click the PDF in Gmail and it'll say, do you wish to use HelloSign? I'm like, hell yes. And hit the button. And then once I'm happy, hit save, and it'll go into the email in my reply. So that's really cool. Or I could even go further and say, I need someone else's signature on this, and I can put their email in. And basically what it'll do is it'll email them and get them to do the same thing. And then once both parties have signed it, it'll send an email to both of them with the completed document. So that way both parties have a finished signature version of the document. So that stuff for like non-disclosure agreements or anything is pretty cool. So that to me is going to become my go-to tool. I think like right now it's free. I definitely want to buy it, but I think right now I'm using the free version and it's cool. Google Docs is definitely and obviously a good tool. So Google Docs, I use it for everything. I use it for a lot of surveys. At the same time, I use it for a lot of presentations, building PDFs. I've actually found like, there's so many PDF tools out there. And like for a while I was using Illustrator just to make like, a hardware shopping list or whatever. And honestly, using PowerPoint or using Google Presentation are so freaking great for that sort of stuff, because you have free form, you're able to just drag and drop anything around, move it around. It works really, really well. So at the same time, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheet are really great as well. I'm actually going to put out some information soon on like all this stuff, like some really cool kind of tricks and tactics and things I use to kind of organize my business and my life and everything. But, it goes without saying, Google Docs, it's free. So, yeah, I've bidded on so many like, multi-million-dollar projects using Google Spreadsheets, and, it's just like Excel, but free. FileSeek is another one that if you're scripting or you need to like go through a lot of files a lot of time, I use FileSeek. I think it's really cool just because it basically allows you to search for files, but you can actually, at least what I use it for is to search for content inside of files. So if I'm scripting, I just have FileSeek always permanently tied to this, my scripts directory. And while I'm writing code, I can easily say, oh, I need a function to quickly grab all the lights and add them to this thing and then output the names to another document or whatever. Well, then I'll just quickly have a search for, functions that might relate to that. And it'll instantly bring up every file as well as show the contents of each file inside of the viewer. So that's really cool because it means that I could quickly just copy paste any bits of code rather than having to think about it for, a couple of minutes. I can just quickly grab bits and steal it out of my old code. So I just find FileSeek to be pretty cool. Again, it's free. EpicPen. I do a lot of live webinars and coaching calls, stuff like that. And I'm always drawing on my screen just because, oddly enough, like I can't communicate with my hands on screen, but drawing a lot of the time, actually my scribbles that make no sense seem to kind of help communicate what I might be verbally saying. So I use EpicPen a lot, but like a lot of people are always like, what tool is that? As if it's like some revolutionary thing. It's, I'm sure there's plenty out there, but EpicPen, not Epi, but EpicPen is pretty cool. And Camtasia, obviously, Digital Tutors, when I was helping Pluralsight and the DT guys out on some RealFlow training once, they put me in touch with this other free one called like Cam Recorder or something, which was kind of interesting. But I've been using Digital Tutors for forever, like 2005 maybe, and or 2004. And yeah, I mean, that's what I still to this day record, any lessons, videos, stuff like that. A lot of the time with my team, I'm recording videos and putting them up just because it's a really valuable tool just to kind of quickly record and capture your voice or video or anything. If you're on a Mac, there's also Camtasia, but there's also ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is pretty cool. I kind of like it better in some ways just because it can easily capture your webcam and everything else very, into separate videos. And yeah, but both of those are really cool. Actually, while I'm on the subject, Jing, which is also from TechSmith, the same company, Jing is really cool because it's just like a little button. It's a little, like, I don't know, corner of your screen or whatever, and you just like click it and then it'll allow you to draw like a marquee selection over something and it'll capture that as an image, and you can choose to either share it on the web, which is one click and it automatically puts it on the web. It gives you a link in your clipboard. So if I wanted to send someone an image, I would literally just click, drag, and then hit share, and then paste the link into the video, into the chat or whatever I'm doing. So there's just like little things like that. It's really cool, but it actually also does video up to 5 minutes. So again, if I wanted to show something really quick, show somebody something really quick, I could just drag a marquee over it, hit video, it'll capture video instead, and then share it on the web. Or I can save it locally. You can do whatever. So Jing, Jing, is another really cool free tool as well. Other ones is like Rescue Time or Rescue Doctor. So, obviously you get the point. I'm going through a lot of tools, but these are ones that are really crucial to what I'm doing, except for this one. Like Rescue Time and Time Doctor. I probably mentioned these in Overtime vs. Productivity, but these are two tools. You can use either one. Probably cost like $5 for the year. I don't know. But basically, they sit in the background. You don't even know they're there, but it allows you to track your usage of like what apps you're using, everything. So it'll tell you, hey, you've been using Maya for the last 6 hours, and you're using Facebook for the last 10 hours. Whatever you're using, it'll actually be aware of it and capture all that information, so that way you can start to see like, where am I wasting time? Or if you're billing jobs, you can say, well, I was in Photoshop and I was in Houdini for this long, therefore I've worked 8 hours today, and you bill for 8 hours. So that sort of thing can be really cool. I believe with one of these, I think it's Time Doctor, you can actually also block websites for portions of time. So if you wanted to say, okay, I have a deadline, I'm blocking Facebook, then that would actually block Facebook for however long you told it to. I believe those two have that. So you can kind of summarize like, okay, I'm spending way too much time in Call of Duty or whatever. In terms of task lists, stuff like that, I like Todoist and Wunderlist. So Wunderlist is Wunderlist. So Wonder, like, I guess maybe German spelling. Or maybe I'm completely wrong about that. I don't know, but I think that's the correct place that they got that from. But anyway, so and Todoist. So it's just Todoist, Todoist. Both of these are cool. Wunderlist is definitely one of the higher end ones. It's really elegant, has lots of features. Both of these sync over every device, so you can have an app and you can kind of check off like what you're doing at the gym as you're going through it, or if you're shopping, or if you want to add stuff to the list that someone else is doing the shopping for, or whatever you want to do. Your daily to-do list, whatever it's going to be. This is like a cool way to kind of have that stuff synced. It's just cool to have these kind of lists. And Todoist is like a little bit more simplified and elegant in the fact that it's simple. So I kind of like that too. So I don't know. Like, I personally use Evernote a lot these days just for everything. So Evernote has checkboxes and strike-throughs and all that stuff, which I tend to kind of, it's one of those things. If you use too many tools, it's going to throw you off. So like right now, my main two tools, I wasn't going to talk about Asana, but for project management, you've got Shotgun, which is like the VFX standard these days, which can be a bit pricey at times, but it's more structured for bigger studios. But Shotgun can be pretty cool, and it can be used for small studios. I'm not going to get into, I don't want anyone to be like, well, Alan, like, we run it with 10 people. Yes, you can, but I feel like after a while, unless you do a lot of customization with Tank and everything else, you're going to be kind of using a cannon, I guess, to kill a gerbil, or whatever metaphors I'm screwing up right now. But essentially, it can be a bit overkill at times, which can slow you down. So I think there are smaller tools that might be more efficient for a set size of a studio, and then when you get to enough people, like 15 or more, that's when I think tools like Shotgun, stuff like that can come in. Again, I guess it just depends on the pace of your studio and everything. I've always hated just getting tied down, having to post and publish stuff all the time when I need to. So with that being said, Basecamp is kind of like one of the main project management tools out there that non-VFX people, I guess, would use. And Basecamp's cool, but it costs money. Asana, Asana, is a free one that's really great. I use that with my team, and that's been really cool just to kind of be able to manage so much stuff, so many different people, and have everyone communicating together and be on point with everything's going on. So I use Asana a lot for everything, which is really cool. And I use Evernote more to kind of manage myself. So I have my own to-do list inside of Evernote, and maybe I'll share the templates in time, because I didn't think it was very interesting, but I showed this to a couple of colleagues of mine recently when I was in Texas, and they were like, holy shit, like that's brilliant, in terms of like just kind of setting up a workflow for how I manage myself day to day. And basically I just have a template that I set up for every day, and I'm one of those people when I do paper notes, which I'm still very much a pen and paper kind of person, but like I end up writing my to-do list for the day, and then I start writing more and more and more. It gets to the point where I'm writing down the side and around the corner trying to fit more stuff in, and it gets to a point where it's like, clearly this is not what I'm going to accomplish today, because it's like 1,000 things on there, if not more. And so I found that the same would happen. I would start like bulking up my Google Calendar and everything else. So I decided to build like a Evernote list, which allowed me to initially set the theme of my day, and it's going to be a bit different depending on what you're doing. And my days are all like, my weeks are very structured. I do a bit of, a couple of days of production, a couple of days of management. There's going to be days I'm on set, and I'm going to prep for being on set. There's podcasts and courses and webinars, reviews, all this stuff going on. So usually what I do is I set a theme for the day, and it kind of just sets a bit of a mindset as to what I want to accomplish. So that way I'm not like doing everything. And then I set 3 goals for the day, 3 things I need to get done. And then there's like chores or tasks or whatever. And that's kind of more where I can just kind of throw whatever I need in there. And then from there, I actually start structuring my day. So I actually put down 9 a.m., do this, 10 a.m., go to this meeting or whatever, speak to this person. And finally, I've got a few other things to put in there, which I find to be really valuable. And that's kind of like what can go wrong today. Because I find like, let's say I'm working from home, and, I know there's going to be distractions. Just being aware of that, kind of putting in like, I could end up getting into a conversation about this, or this could happen, go to a long lunch and beers with friends, by kind of consciously deciding like, oh yeah, these are things that could go wrong in my day. When they actually happen, it kind of resonates right away, like, oh wait, yeah, I need to say no to that beer because I already planned out that this is going to happen. And just having like, when you actually anticipate the stuff, it means that you don't need to make any decisions. You kind of have that fight or flight reaction to everything, which is really effective. So if you already anticipate every scenario that happens, no matter what you're doing, it doesn't need to be planning your day, but like just general stuff, that works out really well, because it allows you to already have a if this then that solution, and then you don't need to think about it. You instantly are able to kind of see what's going on and be able to react to it to kind of figure out the best solution. So I find that to be just really effective in general. I was going to say something else about that. But yeah, I mean, if you read any books on NLP, which is neuro-linguistic language programming, in other words, like human triggers, things like that, that's another thing too, is if you ever want to deflect people, like let's say con artists trying to get your money or whatever's going on, hustlers on the street, whatever you might kind of come up against, even just bosses being manipulative or whatever, relationships, could be anything. Again, by understanding those triggers, being aware of it, the same way as writing down, this could go wrong in my day, it takes away the power from that. So, there are certain things that we're kind of built to respond to automatically just because we've been conditioned this way. And by understanding what's going on, you're aware of it, and therefore it doesn't actually have any effect on you. So that's kind of where that comes from. But there's like a lot of things that I do. I always set one thing per day that, to get out of my comfort zone and do, or, just there's a lot of things in that list. So it's a pretty simple cut and paste list that I use a lot, that I just kind of built, but for me it's just kind of made my day really effective. So I know it's a bit of a sidetrack there, but for me, I use Evernote, and I have that like every day. It's in my day-to-day folder, and I basically will have a list of everything I got to do, and I check them off as I go. End of the day, I just go back and I highlight with the kind of yellow marker thing, and just anything I didn't do. So that way I can look back during the week and say, is there anything outstanding that clearly need to get done? And I can see it clearly what I need to do. So that's kind of my day-to-day process. And then I use Asana for everything. And I also drop it in the Google Calendar. It honestly takes about 10 minutes, if that, but it means that I'm actually getting stuff done opposed to just not having a plan. And it's more effective to do it the night before, both because you're kind of mentally processing it while you sleep. I'm not saying that you're working while you sleep, because I do hear that a lot, and I completely think that's BS. But I do think that you kind of get used to, being consciously aware of what you got to do. When you get up in the morning, you kind of know what you got to do when you have a plan. And it's just a lot less likely that you're going to get up and kind of be fuzzy about your morning and then eventually be like, oh, so what I got to do today? It's like, all right, I know what I got to do. And I kind of feel like by doing that before you sleep, it's really effective. I just don't do it too much because my evenings end up kind of not being too structured. So yeah, but like couple other things I'm just going to go through. Again, I'm interested to see what you think about this, about these lists, but I also love to hear ones that you use. So I'm kind of hoping that you're kind of biting your fingernails, like, I want to hop on comments and mention like what I use, because already I've gotten such great feedback. So focus at will. I've talked about this elsewhere before. I think it might have been Overtime vs. Productivity, those articles I put out, which I'll be re-releasing soon. I'm actually getting a new website, which means I'll start contributing content, because I hate my current website with a passion. I never update it because I hate it so much. So focus at will, I think it's like I don't know, maybe it's $5 a month, I'm not sure. There's a free version for 30 days. Basically, it's this kind of, it just does repetitive noise, essentially. So you can choose from like all these different options these days, but the whole idea is that, anything repetitive is hypnotism. So if you are rocking a baby to sleep, essentially you're hypnotizing them, depending on how you want to define it. But like by doing any repetitive music, you kind of zone out and you get into flow. And flow is like another creative word for being in the zone. Okay, so flow can be, I think there's a book called The Art of Flow. I forgot who wrote it. It's brilliant. But like flow is, the flow state is what you want to get into. And I just find in general, like it's really great to block out noise, that sort of thing. What it allows you to do is, let's say you choose, I want to listen to classical music. It'll loop classical music and you can choose the tempo if you want slow, medium, fast. But you could choose like ADHD, which was like this kind of like, I'm so out of the loop with what the label music these days, but kind of a bit of drum and bass and industrial stuff. I don't know what, like pretty crazy. At the same time, you could have like cafe background noise, and it literally is just like ambience from being in a cafe, which is kind of cool. You can do like up-tempo sort of electronic music, or all these different like acoustic guitar. There's all these different options, running water, birds chirping, whatever, and you put it on and it's not ever going to stop. It's just going to continue kind of looping through the stuff at whatever tempo you chose. And it's just really great for zoning out and getting shit done. There's no vocals or anything to distract you, because again, listening to music that has words, like any vocals or anything like that, that does distract you from what you're doing. And you want to kind of put your brain process directly into what you're doing. So focus at will, I've been using that for like 8 or 9 years and I love it. It's great. Mint.com. So Mint, I wasn't really going to put it up here, but Andre Cantrell, who I mentioned earlier, is going to be on the podcast. He's a CG supervisor for Independence Day Resurgence and like White House Down, like lots of other big movies. He mentioned Mint, and I figured why not? Like it's one of those tools I've been using forever. Essentially, it's like one of the number one, if not the number one, like kind of money management tool out there, which allows you to see all of your bank accounts, credit cards, investments, whatever you got going on, all in one giant portfolio. And it'll allow you to see your net worth. It'll allow you to see what debts you have. It'll allow you to set financial goals. It will show you, where your money is being spent. Allow you to build up a budget. Recommend like, hey, you're paying for all these fees and whatever. So, basically we recommend you use this service, which we are sponsored by, whatever. And so it can be really, really cool though. And it's a free tool. And there's nothing sketchy about it. It's legit, it's safe, it's secure. You can't transfer money or anything like that, because I have like spoken to people over the years who are like, oh, like I don't want to have all my money accessible online, like on my phone or whatever, because someone could just log in and transfer all my money out if they found my phone, which is a good concern, but that's not the case with Mint. Mint isn't about like you don't have access to your money, you just have everything. It's safe, like I said, secure, but basically it allows you to see all of your money and kind of like see all these stats and everything and get a bird's eye view of what you're doing with your cash. So I use it now for everything. I don't log into my personal accounts. I just use Mint, for looking at where my money is at, all that kind of stuff. So I really like it. It's great. There's another one called Toggl, which I have not used, but I figured I'd throw it in here. Toggl. It's just another time tracking tool, but it came highly recommended. There's a lot of people mentioning it. It looks kind of cool. I can't remember why now, but like I went to the website. It looked pretty neat. Lee Johnson, another buddy of mine who's was recommending Clock, KLOK, as another time management tool, but he was saying it's kind of changed his life. So it's a bold statement, so I figured, why not? Let's throw it in there too. For coding, stuff like that, and again, this isn't something I was going to mention, but so many people have mentioned it that I figured I'd throw it in. Notepad++ is what I use a lot, but there's also Sublime, and there's one more I can't remember the name of. And almost had it. It starts with V, and I dare anyone to go on and leave it in the comments the name of it. There's I think these are the 3 standards for coding, for seeing colored syntax, things like that. It's right on the tip of my tongue. And so basically this will allows you to kind of choose what language you want to code in, whether it be MaxScript, Mel, Python, whatever you're doing, Perl, C, whatever. And I guess Ruby's the big one everyone's going crazy for these days. And basically it'll base the syntax on that. It'll color code everything based on that. So yeah, those are some really cool tools if you just kind of want to get into coding and just kind of have a cool tool for it. Still cannot remember it. I swear it starts with V. So someone get on, get in the comments, alanmckay.com/65, and Adobe Media Encoder. It goes without saying, it's a great tool just for doing batch conversions and batch rendering of anything you're doing Adobe related. So typically whenever I finish a shoot, we'll want to proxy everything, and then we'll start building the offline edit. So what we'll do is we bring in all the R3Ds if we're shooting on a Red, if we're shooting on Blackmagic or Ari or anything like that, then, sorry, Ari, what the hell am I, anyway, sorry, Alexa, so I'm going insane here, but basically what we'll do is we'll drop in the EXRs, DNGs, or R3Ds, whatever we're working with, into encoder, and we'll just be able to kind of choose a template. So it time codes everything, it stamps it with the sequence and shots, all the shot code, and from there we can generate everything. Then we can drop it all into the offline. We can start editing it all, and then when we're happy, we can pull in the original data and do a conform from there. So I mean, that's kind of handy for that. I use it for all of my courses, things like that, any image sequences, whatever. I find it to be pretty brilliant in general. So I love Adobe Media Encoder. LogMeIn or TeamViewer are also, no one actually recommended LogMeIn. Everyone said TeamViewer, and I guess I'm naive enough not to really ever paid attention to what the difference is, but I use a LogMeIn. I've been using it forever, and I love it because I can use my phone, I can use anything. So there's been times I've been on a plane and I'm managing render jobs. I've been at barbecues. When I was working on Metallica, I had all these crazy deadlines, and I'm submitting renders and doing all this stuff at the barbecue, hanging out with friends, drinking, just on my iPhone. But in general, it means that I can kind of access my computer, and it's great. There's some, again, emails I want to put out later to the Inside Circle VIP list on PCOIP, remote working, that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff like that I'm going to be covering soon. But there are also free solutions, like Remote Desktop is really cool, obviously. And I know some big studios right now in LA that are literally using nothing but Remote Desktop to work. Like all their machines are in LA, and like France, the whole team is just using, for the most part, Remote Desktop to the LA machines. So all they are really is just like a PCOIP setup, like PC over IP. And so it means that, they're essentially just a keyboard, mouse, and screen attached to this little box with a network cable. And the computer can be anywhere. And ILM was doing that with the whole pod experiment where they set up in LA, working on a bunch of films. And I don't know, maybe it's still going. I know they shut it down for a while, and I'm out of the loop. I should check what's going on, but I love that idea, and I've dabbled with it a little bit, and I want to experiment more with that for sure, because I'd love to be completely in the cloud in terms of having machines, in Delaware or somewhere in the US, and me being on an island, with all my render farms being in the cloud as well. That would be sweet. I would have no complaints. But LogMeIn is great. TeamViewer is great. There's free ones like Google extensions, things like that you can use as well. So they're really cool. I use 1Password for keeping all my passwords in one thing, so they're safe and secure, but I don't need to write down 1,000 passwords. So that's pretty cool too. Like I said, I'm just kind of wanting to go through a lot of stuff that I'm regularly using. Some of this stuff, I'm sure you've heard of. Other stuff you're like, not for me. But in general, these are things that I'm, I wouldn't mention it if I didn't think it was really, really well worthwhile. I'm going to jump on a few other subjects really quick. One, I don't really have much to say about VFX tools. I wanted to leave that for a different post. If you are interested, let me know, and I will put together some more content, which I'll probably just email out rather than do like another episode or anything. But VFX tools, there's so many, yet they're so diverse that I want to kind of keep it a bit more on point with everything else I'm using. So I'll just say with email, and I hope I said VFX before, but anyway, email followup.cc. So this is a tool that I kind of liked and hated for a while, and the only real reason for that was because there's another tool, Rapportive. I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to show some really sneaky shit you can do for this. To let's say you're applying for a job somewhere and you don't want to go through HR, like human resources. I want to put together like a bit of a training series on how to kind of reverse stalk people. So if you wanted to find out who the head of 3D was and then get their exact email address and like every bit of information about them, there's a bunch of tools that I use. Like it just makes it extremely easy to be able to pull up and get all that, like their private email, all that stuff, where then you could just email them and say, hey, what's up? Here's my work. Hope you're doing well. And whatever else you want to say, rather than going through human resources where everyone else is doing, you're going through the side door, which I think is really effective. But followup.cc is really cool because it does a lot of things. It's just like a really good, I think it's more built for sales, but it's really useful because you could email someone and it'll notify you. It'll pop up on your screen a little pop up saying that they've read the email. And at times it's kind of interesting because you'll see that some people read your email like 6 times and you're like, what's going on? Like, why do you keep opening, why do you keep reading that, you freak? And so it's just kind of interesting, but you can actually see at any given moment whenever someone's reading that email you sent, and you can have like thousands of emails and just see what's going on. So that's really cool, but at the same time you can kind of boomerang back your email too. So like, let's say you get an email and you're like, I don't want to deal with it right now. You hit a button and it goes away, and then it'll come back later, and you can check out the email again a day later. It'll pop back up into your inbox. Or you can set a reminder so that way you email someone and let's say they owe you money and you're like, pay me, and then you can set a reminder and the email will pop back up into your inbox again 5 days later. So that way you'd be like, oh yeah, so-and-so hasn't paid me yet. I'm gonna have to go break his legs. So there's like a lot of different features about it. It can be pretty cool. So the reason that it kind of bugged me a little bit was that there's this other tool called Rapportive, and I really loved Rapportive because Rapportive, which is RAPPORTIVE, so Rapportive, like rapport, and what that will do is it allows you to, like in Gmail, it's like an extension for it. You open an email and in the right side panel, it'll actually bring up all this information about them. So suddenly you can see a picture of what they look like, their Google Plus profile, their LinkedIn profile. So you can quickly add them to LinkedIn. Or what's cooler is that you can actually see like who you have in common on LinkedIn. And I find that to be really fascinating because even today there was someone emailed me just to say hi, and I could see like they were in Paris and they were friends with friends I knew in Brisbane, Australia. Meanwhile, I've got like, I don't know, a couple of my friends in other countries who are friends with people at Playboy and other companies that I know are like, we're all on LinkedIn, and it's just like, how do you know so-and-so? And like just weird kind of connections that you've got everywhere. It's just like kind of always interesting to kind of see the company developing my website in South Africa right now is friends with a 3D guy I know at Blur Studio, and it's just like, well, what's the connection there? So I kind of find that to be fascinating too. But just in general, I like the fact that I can kind of see who I'm talking to. It kind of makes it a bit more personal when email is so impersonal. So I really like that about Rapportive, just in general. And I get to see what country they're from too, which I get a kick out of because, I might be like, hey, you're from my home city, or hey, you're from Berlin, like whatever. And it's just kind of, again, kind of makes it a bit more of a connection that you're talking to a real human being. Now, the reason follow-up bothered me is because they both went on the side panel, and it meant that if I had follow-up on, then I couldn't use Rapportive, and I really like Rapportive. I just set up follow-up again after having it off for probably a couple of months, and now I think they've fixed that where both of them come up, and also Rapportive now has some stuff similar. Follow-up now has stuff similar to Rapportive, which I think is cool because now what happens is I've got more tools at my disposal. It's like, becoming a bit of like a email powerhouse, which is kind of neat. Maelstrom is another one that's actually like spelled like email. So Maelstrom, Mailstrom. And Maelstrom is pretty cool just if you got like a crap load of email to get through. Usually whenever I send an email out, I get anywhere between 100 to 1,200 responses to some of the emails I send. And believe it or not, I try to reply to all of them. But what I typically do is that because they're all replies, there's a lot of them. So Maelstrom's really cool because it allows me to kind of sort my email however I want to. So I can sort it by the date. So if you were trying to get to inbox 0, what you could do is just choose everything from 2015 and 14, just little checkboxes, and say archive all of that and just deal with what's in 2016. And, or I could sort things by different subjects like shopping, so it'd be Amazon and other crap like that, or social media. It'll bring up like Twitter and everything. It just allows you to kind of sort everything very easily for your entire inbox, and it gives you a lot of power. What I like is also you can sort by size, you can sort by subject. So what I was getting at before is if I get, let's say, 200 responses to an email I send out, I want to reply to all of them, but I kind of want to get in the zone and just reply to nothing but people who are contacting me about that subject. So I'll make a folder specifically about that email subject. I can just quickly drag and drop every single one of those in one click, like one click and drag into that folder. And then when I sit down with my coffee or wine and start responding, I can kind of get into that flow state that I mentioned before, put focus at will on, put my Bose headphones, which I'm going to mention later. But, like basically just get in the zone and to start emailing, and everything is related to that subject. So it's kind of cool. I can kind of stay in that mindset instead of it being like, here's one from an accountant, here's one from this, and there's another one about that subject. So Maelstrom is really cool. Email Game is another one. So let's say you cull down your email, you get to a pretty easy to manage point. There's a thing called the Email Game, and I'll have a link to it in the show notes. But basically, Email Game is kind of fun. It's an external web application where you log in, it logs into your email basically, and it has like it's full screen or whatever. So again, the whole point is you're not distracted, and it gives you a timer. So actually, we'll bring up your email in your inbox, and you got to reply to it. There's nothing else on the screen. And what you got to do is it'll kind of judge how long the email is, and therefore how long it's going to give you to reply. So it might be 5 minutes, it might be 30 seconds. And from there, you got to start typing and replying. There's like a countdown timer, which eventually will get down to 0, then go into the negative red, and which you don't want to do. And so it kind of makes it kind of fun because it's like, oh, I got to beat the timer. On top of that, there's like a big emoji, and I got to say, and maybe I'm saying emoji wrong, but I find it's a stupid face, like a Pac-Man emoji face, and yet I always feel really like I don't want to disappoint it. Okay, so like whenever you skip an email or you're not replying on time, it goes from like happy to sad, and so the whole point is to keep this face happy, and I'm a complete sucker for it. I'm like, crap, I got to reply to a few more because I got to get that face back happy again. So I don't know, at least I'm completely suckered in with that. So Email Game is just great because it's like a fun way to bang out 100 emails and get to the end. And so I do it occasionally. It's really effective, and I don't use it all the time, but I just find it can be really cool. Boomerang is very similar. It's free, or it's like $5, something like that. It's free initially, but Boomerang is another Gmail add-on which just adds a little button to Gmail, and it's very much like follow-up. In fact, I use it instead of follow-up. But basically it allows you to boomerang your email. So in other words, you could be working on an email and let's say you receive an email and you're like, I don't want to deal with that right now. What I can do is boomerang it and choose like a time for it to come back, or a random time, or whatever I want to do. So I can say, okay, send me that email at 3 p.m. So at 3 p.m., like that email's gone. It's not in my inbox anymore. But at 3 p.m., it's going to pop back into my inbox. So that way I can attend to the email then. I find this to be really cool because it means that I can actually categorize my email. So let's say I get someone emailing me about trying to think of a good example. Let's just say I've got a student emailing me about the course and like, hey, I'm in the course, I got a question about this thing, can you take a look at my file, or can you give me some advice about a job interview I've got going on, or I'm stuck on this, whatever. Let's say that I want to try and keep all of those to Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might just say, okay, boomerang till Tuesday 4 p.m. And that way what's happening is at Tuesday 4 p.m. I sit down, and then all of those emails, again, flow state, all of those emails all land in my inbox again, and that way I can get in the zone and deal with nothing but student stuff for an hour or 2 or 3 and kind of focus on things that way. And so I can start to categorize everything I'm doing. So I think that is really cool in that respect. At the same time, again, someone owes me money and I got to break their legs. Well, I can boomerang the email. Like reply to them or say, hey, here's this, then hit boomerang, say a month from now or whatever, follow up again. And that way, a month later, that email pops back in my inbox. A year later, even I've done a few of those, and it'll pop back in my inbox and say, hey, go to the gym, Alan, whatever you need to do. And that can be really cool as well. Lastly, you can also schedule emails to go out. So even yesterday I did that. We did a shoot and I wanted to upload a bunch of the takes from that shoot to the producer to take a look at. And I used Dropbox and I threw it all in Dropbox and instantly it's uploading to the internet. I got a link and it said it's going to be about 30 minutes. And I had to go somewhere, I forget where. So I had to go on another shoot. I just remembered. So I had to go on another shoot. So I literally just typed in the email, did it all, sent the link, but I set it to go out 30 minutes later. And that way the file would upload and then the email would go out. And I find like I've done that so many times where I schedule like 2 hours from now, I'll send an email saying, hey, here's the files. And by that stage, the files will actually be there, opposed to, hey, they're uploading or, whatever kind of confusion you can have. So that can be really cool as well. Okay, so we're almost done. So yeah, I just want to kind of bring those up because I thought that was something that, those are tools that I use all the time. It's not like, hey, these are some things I found on a cool website. It's like, this is the shit that I use all the fucking time. A couple of Chrome extensions, Instapaper, which is great because it allows you to get any page or blog post, whatever, right click, say save to Instapaper, and then it saves to the cloud. This thing will be formatted really nicely and easy to read, as well as being synced and everything. So that way you can view it all offline. You don't need to be online to view it. So there's times where I'm on a plane, I'm just like, what are the thousands of articles I've saved that I want to read? Well, I just have it all synced to my phone. And that way, when I want a flight, I can just open up my phone, no internet, and I can read all these easy to read things. So I really dig that. Just in general for syncing stuff that you want to keep. So it's not like bookmarking actually kind of stores that document formats. It does the whole thing. There's a Vimeo extension called Vimeo Extension to Repeat. And one of my students mentioned this because I do live reviews where twice a week, once in the morning, once at night. Basically, we all log into a webinar and chat and all this stuff, and people, like students in my mentorship, will show me their work, and I'll critique it, give feedback, answer questions, help solve problems, communicate, whatever we need, that sort of thing. And this has been really cool because, and that's where I use EpicPen, but basically I can kind of give feedback, the sort of stuff that we would get in dailies, and I really enjoy that. It's just kind of a good way to interact with everyone and kind of really push people's work, so that way it's really trying to get it to production quality or finished movie quality. So one of the students actually mentioned, because I was using Vimeo, like everyone's posting their work on Vimeo, it's kind of like play once, play it again. So they mentioned Vimeo Extension to Repeat. And what it does is it allows you to set your Vimeo player to loop, which I thought was kind of cool. But it also has playback speed. So if you're watching, let's say, a tutorial, you can make it 3 times the speed or 0.5 times the speed to slow it down if it's me talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So that sort of thing can be really useful as well. And so yeah, the other one was Facebook Feed Eradicator. And I just thought this is kind of cool because someone recommended it to me, I installed it, and then whenever I went on Facebook, there was no wall. So in other words, like there's no feed, I should say. So whenever I logged into Facebook, there's just nothing there. I thought that was freaking awesome because you kind of have this habit where you're like, oh, I'm stressed, I'm bored, I'm whatever. And some people eat food, other people go to Facebook. And if I go to Facebook, there's nothing there. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, there's nothing on Facebook. The internet has gone away. Sweet. And I turn around and go back to what I'm doing. And it just kind of breaks the habit a little bit, which I thought was kind of cool. So it's such a simple thing, but it's not until you actually use it, you're like, whoa, this is kind of neat. All right, so I'm getting to the end, I swear. So I guess the key thing that I really want to get onto in terms of like actual physical items would be I have a stand-up desk. So there's a episode that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon to do with health and more to kind of do with bringing a bit of awareness to like how badly you can fuck yourself up working too much. And I went through major life changes by having deadline after deadline after deadline where I completely and utterly destroyed my spine. There's a lot of issues I've gone through because of that. So There's a lot that I want to kind of talk about that, as well as ways to prevent it and things like that. But the reason, or what I really want to kind of focus on, is the fact that I have a stand-up desk, which is a up desk, I believe it's called. Like the type I have is Power Up, or no Power Up, it's like Power Desk, something like that. Essentially, it's like an electronic desk where I can be sitting, I can work, I can have like up to 400 pounds on there. It's awesome. And I can hit a button and I can raise it up all the way to like 50 inches tall. So like, pretty high up. And, big, massive desk. Now, I remember at ILM, we all had these as well, but they were kind of wind up desks, which can have to like, wind it up. So you bring a lot of attention to yourself as you go up and down. I never really understood at the time why people had these wind up desks, but now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I completely get it. So this is something that I have in my main office, and I just rely on pretty solely for everything. And I love that. I love being able to stand up and work. Now, if you're freelancing, it's a whole different ballgame because you can't take a massive desk with you. So what I have is what's called a VariDesk, which is VariDesk. So VariDesk is really cool because what it is just like it's pretty light. It's like 50 pounds or it might be less than that. It's not that heavy. You can lift it up. It's basically a desk that you put on top of another desk. So this to me is pretty cool. What I do is whenever I go freelancing anywhere, you don't bring it on your first day, like carrying this giant thing on, 9 in the morning, but, bring it in once you're set up. And what you can do is you put it on top of your desk, you put the screen, the, keyboards, all that stuff on there, and you just can sit at your desk as you usually do. But when you want to stand up, all you do is pull the levers and lift. And it's very simple. Even when you got like heavy screens and everything on there, it's extremely simple to lift up, and it just kind of switches into stand-up mode. And that way you can kind of stand there and do all your work. And when you want to switch again, you pull the levers and push it back down, and it goes back into regular sit-down again. So it looks good. It's not tacky or anything. And I know probably, 10 or more people have bought them just seeing like mine in action. So I've always kind of enjoyed that a lot more people kind of getting on the train of switching it up. And like the good thing is that it's small and light enough you can just throw it in the back seat of your car and take it wherever you want to go. So I like that as more of a mobile solution. Whenever I'm working in a place for more than a couple of weeks, I want to stand up rather than sitting down all the time. So VariDesk is really cool. Updesk is what I use as an electronic one. The Updesk is kind of expensive though. It's like $1,000. But you can get like a $50 IKEA desk. There's plenty of stuff. Just use Google. You can get like really cheap solutions, like $50 to get like a stand-up desk very easily set up. VariDesk is about $400, I think. But I feel like for your health, that's a pretty good investment. One thing I will say about it is when I ordered mine, they had an option where you could do the regular 1 week shipping, or you could do the expedited like 2-day shipping or something. And it was like $500 if you want to do the 2-day shipping. So I'm like, screw that. I went the regular 1 week shipping, which was free or something, and that ended up arriving in the same amount of time as the 2-day shipping. So I figure I'll mention that as just like never pay for the expedited, just go the regular one. At least for me, I got it in 2 days, or 1 day or something, is extremely fast and extremely cheap. So I want to kind of throw that in there too, just as like we talk about tools and everything else. I mean, one thing I thought about doing was like a visual effects supervisor toolbox episode where it's kind of like talking about what kind of gear you should bring on set. So light readers, laser pointers, tracking markers, duct tape, Leatherman, all the standard shit that you would want to bring just to make sure that you can get all the information you need for doing all the post-production. And so there's a lot of stuff visual effects related I could get into. And if you guys are interested, leave a comment and just remind me and say, hey, I'd love to see the VFX one. I'd be more than happy to do one on that. But I did want to talk about the desk just because I think stand-up way of working is definitely catching on a lot of people these days. Like I know more people standing up than I know sitting down, at least other people I've talked to. But one thing I do, which is a little bit weird, is I have a foam roller. I have like lacrosse balls and foam rollers and like all these other torturous devices at home to kind of like, work on your glutes and get rid of knots and just really kind of fix yourself up and repair yourself a bit. And what I really like is I actually have a foam roller, and I used to have I'd used to use like a foot rest or whatever when I was working. I'd always liked having my feet kind of elevated. So recently, I've actually been using a foam roller for the longest time, but now been using it kind of to sit on as well. So like basically while I'm sitting in a chair, I would have like my feet kind of propped up on a foam roller just because it's a good height and it's kind of like a cool way to kind of keep my feet a bit elevated. So it's kind of like a footrest. But what I do is whenever I bring my chair up into stand-up mode, totally distracted here. Whenever I put my desk into stand-up mode, what I end up doing is I end up standing on the foam roller. And this is the weird thing. Although for me, I love it. I'm actually doing it just right now as I'm speaking. So while I'm standing, I can kind of rock back and forth. So while I'm working, I'm kind of shifting back and forth. And not only are you kind of activating your core the whole time you're working because it's having to stabilize you, but on top of that, it's really great just because it's kind of second nature. It's not like I'm really thinking about it, but I'm kind of like moving around a lot. I'm stabilizing myself. And I'm also able to kind of like lean back on like one of my feet and like stretch my hamstring. Or I can lean forward and I can just kind of shift from being on my toes to being on my heels. I can do a lot with it, and it just kind of makes it so that way, like I said, without thinking about it, I'm active the whole time. I'm kind of moving around, I'm doing things while I'm working. It's kind of fun, and like I really enjoy it. Plus, just like stretching your hammies the whole time while you're working, it just feels really good while you work. And like, I don't know, I just enjoy it a lot more because if you're just standing the whole time at your desk, that gets kind of boring. And you can have like a fatigue mat, so that way it's cushions the floor so your feet don't get sore. But again, just kind of having like the foam roller, standing on that's kind of fun. And it's, yeah, I don't know, I really dig it. So just make sure if you're on the phone or something, you don't want to lose balance or something. But for me, I kind of really enjoy that. It's kind of satisfying in a way, getting to kind of stretch yourself out while you're working and shuffle around. So that, that is my one weird thing. And again, it doesn't look weird. People just see you standing up and doing your thing. But I want to kind of throw that in there just because for me, I love that kind of work setup where I'm working, got my headphones on, I'm standing, kind of shifting back and forth on a foam roller, that sort of thing. One other thing I will throw in there actually, and it's kind of related to this, is an inversion table. So again, one of the best things I've ever bought, and this is more of a health thing, but being able to basically lock yourself in and hang upside down, and that decompresses your spine. So this isn't work related, but I do this a couple of times a day where I'll hang for 30 seconds to a couple of minutes and use like gravity kind of stretch out your spine. So that way you kind of undo anything bad that you're doing to yourself. Because I had like really screwed up my spine for the past 2 years, I haven't been able to work out at all. I haven't been able to run. Like just before I screwed my spine up, I was doing 8 miles a day, every single day, 7 days a week. I was in great shape. Then totally screwed myself for a good year. I was just in like really bad condition. Could barely, walk or do anything. And it's just taken a long time to kind of get back to that. And that's something I haven't really talked about too much. And it's kind of, for me, I just kind of feel like I don't want to depress people with like how bad it actually got. But it was all to do with just sitting and working way too much. And like I said, I want to really kind of turn the focus on this in an upcoming episode and talk to a few people about it. But because actually everyone I know has back issues these days, and I'm young, not that old. But just recently I got back into weightlifting, and because of that, I really want to make sure I'm undoing any of the compression and things like that I'm doing. I'm not like doing any squats or deadlifts right now, or I'm not doing any deadlifts right now. I am doing a bit of squats, some squats, but in general though, using an inversion table, you can kind of hang upside down and just kind of essentially decompress your spine a lot. And it's really great before you sleep because usually your muscles don't atrophy in a short amount of time, but essentially they are going to tightening up from not being used while you're sleeping. And usually when you wake up in the morning, especially if you have any kind of ligament damage or back issues, like your body ends up like getting really tight. So needing to stretch yourself out using a foam roller and stuff like that in the mornings is always good, but also at nighttime before sleeping, it's kind of good to again kind of do the same thing. So you can use things like gravity boots, which is like you hang a bar, like a pull-up bar or something like above your door and be able to hook onto those and hang upside down. That's another thing you can do, which is kind of like it takes up a lot less space than an inversion table does. However, I'm always just paranoid I'm going to fall on my head or something if I did that. So I just want to throw that extra one in there, but inversion tables for me has been a massive life changer in a lot of ways. So I know I've kind of rattled off a lot of stuff here, but I kind of wanted to just go for a free-for-all here and kind of throw out a lot of stuff. But every single thing that I mentioned is stuff that I use and I swear by it, and I wouldn't be mentioning otherwise, with the exception of Clock and Toggle. I think it was, both of those I never used, but everything else. And that's just it. Like, yeah, everything here are like things that I'm using every day. So I'm kind of hoping that there's a lot of gems that you're able to take away and you're able to apply to what you're doing. And like I said, it's one thing for me to talk about it, but it's one of those things I think you really need to be able to, click on the links and do all that stuff. So I'm going to have a very in-depth, probably the most in-depth show notes I've made so far. And it'll have links to all this stuff, explanations, all that stuff. But I'm kind of hoping you can kind of listen to this and be like, whoa, that sounds cool, and like really talk about the uses of them, that sort of thing. And then go to the show notes and kind of grab all the stuff. And like, most of it's for free. Otherwise, it's really affordable. I'm not mentioning anything that's like crazy expensive. And most of them have like a 30-day trial at least. So there's lots of options there. I will wrap things up here. I just kind of wanted to throw all that out. And hopefully it's something that really works for you. What I would love for you to do is go to the show notes and you can leave a comment or check out the links, that sort of thing. But what I'd love is just if you go through and like leave a comment, let me know what you think of these tools, but more importantly, what your tools that you recommend are. Because I've mentioned this on Facebook and on Twitter, a few other places, and everything blew up with like some people were posting pages of their best tools all categorized and everything. It became a gold mine. And like, if that's the case, I'm more than happy to build like a master document of like all the stuff that's recommended, because I think there's so many great resources, so many little tools that all it takes is one person to say, hey, have you checked out whatever, Evernote or something, and it can change your life forever. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are. What are some of the tools that you love? If you want, go to alanmckay.com/65, so 65, and leave a comment in there. At the same time, one huge favor that would mean a lot to me is if you can leave a review in iTunes. There'll be a link in the show notes as well. That's important for me because I'd love to get your feedback and love to see what you think. If you enjoy this, if you find it useful. At the same time, obviously it helps with rankings and all that stuff on iTunes, and it would mean a lot to me, especially because I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things on iTunes. And whenever you leave a podcast dormant for a week, it drastically kind of drops off the radar, let alone the last couple of months, which is what I've just done. That being said, the last episode I put out had it only been out for a couple of days. When I checked, it was like over 10,000 people had downloaded it, which is awesome. Just to see that there's been that consistency without even episodes coming out. So I freaking love that some people are still daily jumping on this stuff, even when there is that small hiatus. But moving forward, I'm going to be consistently putting this stuff out. I'm really excited about that. Next episode, sorry if I keep bumping the mic. Next episode, I'm going to be doing an effects roundtable with Anzi and Mark Terriault, which is going to be really fun. We did that in Paris, and I'm looking forward to putting that up. And also I'm going to have Andre Cantarell from Independence Day Resurgence on here as the CG supervisor for all the studios. That was really cool to talk to him about all that stuff. And I've got a lot of other really awesome episodes coming up. I think I mentioned the mentorship that is going to be coming up next 2 weeks. So I'm really excited about that, just because it'll be a chance to get more students in for the next round. And there's a lot of new stuff that we're doing this time around. It's going to be a bit different, new content. I'm going to be also adding additional lessons for Houdini and for Maya, as well as making it also a bit more career driven too. Like, there's going to be lots, and I love what we've done. I don't ever try and want to talk about it. I'm trying not to, I should say, but it's kind of hard not to, just because I'm so proud of what we've all accomplished. We're actually going to be hosting an industry drinks night in Los Angeles at the end of the month in October, just because there are a bunch of people coming over from all over the US who have all magically in October landed jobs all over LA out of the mentorship. And so we're going to be getting together and kind of catching up there, but it'll be a good excuse to kind of get everyone in LA out to have drinks and network and do all that sort of thing. And I've seen so many jobs and other business be generated from those drink nights, so that's another thing that's going to resume pretty soon as well. So there is lots coming up. I will leave it there. Like I said before, if you want to, go to alanmckay.com/65 to get the show notes and to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for listening. I'll be back with another episode soon. Next episode, I'll be back with more cool stuff. And in the meantime, I am going to be sending out some really critical emails just about like a lot of great information that's coming up. There's going to be a big article on like setting up your own studio, as well as like what hardware to purchase, how to do it all on the cheap, a few things like that. And that's going to be one of many of the new kind of high value content pieces that I'll be sending out each week. So that'll be to the VIP Inner Circle list. So if you go to alanmckay.com/inside, you'll be able to register there for that as well. So that is it. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you next time.